We're back, and we're getting ready for the second series of the day. Unfortunately, we did have some technical difficulties, and we're unable to talk to Copy, or he was unable to hear me, rather. So we will, we love you, Copy. I will get to talk to you soon. Maybe we can even do a little interview after some of the games or something today to get you caught up and catch you up on Copy, newly addition to CLG. But we've got our matches that we're continuing, right? We're going in our second series, so we've already had a 2-0 for CLG Challengers, and now we move on to Cloud9 Challengers versus the FLYF, which is still coolest name, but I'm really excited for you to go ahead. It still has the F. It still has the F. So here is the schedule. As we were saying before, we've already been through the first series of the day. We have 2 more best of 2s. And it should be a fun one to round it out, especially with some more provisional versus fixed teams here. But let's go ahead and move on into our matchup and into our rosters, as we've got Cloud9 Challengers up and ready to go here pretty soon. And especially when we're looking at this roster, when we're seeing some of the changes and especially that copy going on to CLG too. I think there's a lot of differences here, Joshi.
Oh yeah, this roster is very different to anybody who is watching, and it feels like an entirely new idea coming out from Cloud9 in some ways, right? Last year, they were playing with 3 veterans and players like Darshan, King, and Destiny, and now, well, they still have 3 relative veterans in Fake God, Lost, and Zazel. It's a very different style, right? Instead of having Darshan kind of be El Capitan, El Presidente, looking for an opportunity to help all the younger players, now we have switched over to Zazel, who has been one of the best players in the semi-pro scene for the past several years, even when he's not playing. They're going to be having Tomio come in as this mechanical strong rookie, and Jimenez, who we know has been a very strong player over in EU for a little while, but is someone that they're maybe going to have to put a little bit more work in on the back end.
I mean, we'll see how Cloud9 really goes about this, because it also feels like Cloud9 have a interesting philosophy when it comes to mid laners, especially. Josh, don't you agree?
Yeah, we could fix him. We could fix him, for sure. We'll get into that a little bit later, but, I mean, I like what we're seeing in terms of what they're actually bringing. They have a very strong bot lane. They have a couple of more speculative mid-jungle, and then Fake God is a player who is still just going to kind of be solid and is looking to kind of come back in. But this is some of my favorite segments. I can fix him coming through for Cloud9. Now, let's go back a little bit back on memory lane, and C9 has had a bit of a history of picking up players that have had a reputation as not being the most upstanding citizens, but most of them have had an opportunity to showcase that once they come into Cloud9, that isn't necessarily always true. Remember when Jensen came over as Incarnation? It was like, this guy is so toxic, he's been banned multiple times, like, there's no way he's going to be good. Multiple-time LCS champion. Malice was one of their more recent additions that they had in Spring, who was the first Western player to play in Korea, but he defined the jungle meta for most of Spring, and even though they didn't have him anymore, he was somebody that really strove to be the best competitive player that he could. Later, they moved to Shaden, another incredibly strong rookie jungler who, while a couple of teams, especially Evil Geniuses, was looking to pick them up in 2021, failed the behavior test, and because of that was prevented from playing professional for a year. But they were the strongest carry jungler in all of Academy 2022, and now they're still in the same thing. We can fix Jimenez. And this was a player who was a little bit tough for his team on JDXL to actually field for most of the time that they were playing in the EU scene on the NLC. But they went 12-2 in the games that they were playing him, and they didn't do that great when he wasn't on the field. And
also, when you look back to his time in Turkey as well, this guy was pretty much defining the whole mid lane meta and how you could play that, getting a pentakill on Corki. When he was in the EUMs, he played Zeri mid, I think 4 games.
Jimenez, nobody's questioning whether or not Jimenez is good enough to play. Right, he is absolutely going to be a strong player, but the question is going to be, will they also be able to be a strong teammate? Cloud9 is convinced that they can fix him, and honestly, with their track record, I think that they have a pretty good shot.
Yeah, I would say so. Now we have the FLYF. It's the third tier of FlyQuest here for League of Legends, and themselves finding a lot of interesting pieces to kind of bring into the fold here, Magical.
I mean, it's, to me, really interesting to see. You have Goo, Instinct, and Sword. 3 players that have played in the 100 Thieves Next scene before. Like, you had Goo and Instinct playing at the same time, Sword after that as well. And these are all players that I'm excited for, personally. Instinct, I think, is a player who got an unfair shake last year, even though he was probably one of the brighter lights of TSM's LCS team when he was brought into sub. He unfortunately didn't get back onto a Challengers team this time. I'm glad he's still on FlyFam. Goo is another jungler that I actually am really excited to watch, because this is someone I was hyped on before as a really good facilitating jungler.
Yeah.
And then Sword, the role swap from mid lane to support. I'm still waiting until he plays Galio support, because he was so good at that mid.
Yeah, I mean, that's why he moved to support, because he's like, yeah, you kind of play the support yourself anyway. You should give it a try. I am pretty excited with a couple of these players, right? Because Goo, Blaze, Instinct, and Sword are all mechanically strong players that can have really strong performances. And the one player that we don't know quite as much, Nasia, hope we say that right, is a player that, honestly, I had not heard of before this year. It was not a player who has had a whole lot of experience in the amateur or the semi-pro environment previously. And so I'm kind of looking at this player in a lot of ways that we judged vital coming in last year for Immortals. They were just the best player who showed up at tryouts. They thought they could work with them. And while Harry Lunacia Cow is a player that we won't have super high expectations of, we will have very high hopes for. So let's make sure we welcome him in, even if the first couple of games don't go well. This guy has given it the try. We're going to make sure that we give them every opportunity to showcase what they can do.
Hey, that's what we're here for. It's all about development. I'm excited to see Goo. I know Lilia's not in the meta, but one day, hopefully this year, we'll get to see Goo's Lilia in season. And now we got to talk a little bit more about Instinct and Sword here, Magical.
Yeah, like I said, part of the 100 Thieves Next infrastructure in the past. And when they played together, it was actually, like, it was a very brief window. They got to play with one another, I believe. But I really am excited with Sword and how he has developed as a support. Because I think this is a player that when you look at how he is mechanically, he is very aggressive. He likes to play kind of like how he did when he played a lot of that Galio. And pairing that up with someone like Instinct, who in his, his second game of LCS that he played with TSM, he got a pentakill. The guy is really good and really talented mechanically. To have them paired up with one another, I'm looking towards the bot lane as something that is going to be probably able to contest against Lost and Zeyzal, who are some premier...
Whoa.
I'm putting that out there now. I'm putting this now. I think Instinct and Sword can go toe-to-toe with Lost and Zeyzal.
Putting some skin in the game early on.
Now, I feel like we're going to have to make a bet for this because Lost and Zeyzal are pretty darn good here, Magical.
I'm not saying they're not good.
All right, guys, we doing shaved heads to kick off the season?
Not the start of the season,
We're going all the way at day 1. Why not?
No.
Okay,
all right. We're going to have to... We'll figure something out for betting later on. But, I mean, I started looking at this. Instinct and Sword are one of our better bottom lanes, especially for a provisional team. This is going to be a strong bottom lane for the provisional teams. But going up against Lost and Zeyzal, who I currently have on my tier list of being, at worst, top 3 bottom lanes coming into the season, I think it's going to be a big challenge for them. And if they just are able to go even, I'm going to say that's a big win for the FlyFam bottom side.
I think this bottom lane matchup is going to be really intense as well, especially in lane. I'm expecting Zeyzal to try and control things along those lines and seeing exactly what we're going to get out of Sword after not having seen him for just a little while. But that is pretty much a little bit of breakdown of where the spotlight is, at least in terms of this game. But I think you also have to look at, what is going to be kind of that wild card in the jungle, especially looking over at Goo and seeing exactly how to approach this in terms of comfort. Because I feel like FlyFam is going to need a lot of comfort here, Joshi.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just as we were looking at with the CLG Civil War that we just saw, the provisional team is absolutely the team that needs to showcase what they can do. They need to try and find upsets because player for player, I am actually looking across at the rosters and I'm pretty convinced that Cloud9 challengers are better in every single role, at least on paper, and that's going to be a big challenge for FlyFam to deal with. Now, as somebody who has played in situations like that myself, admittedly at a much lower level, you look at that and you're just like, okay, we cannot just play to go even. We cannot play to draw. We cannot play to scale. We need to come out swinging. We need to have a plan from minute 1, and that's always going to be tough for these provisional teams.
Exactly that. Well, we're ready to get into it, so let's dive into our second series of the day, FlyFam versus C9 Challengers.
I'm excited for this one.
Like
you said, FlyFam, probably one of the best names, even if it has the F fallacy that I'm not a fan of. But looking at this game, they will be on the red side. So the graphics, again, just flip them. That way you know. Well, C9 Challengers on the blue side. And with how the meta's gone so far, I'm not too surprised to see that Cassante is actually the first ban for FlyFam, especially towards Fake God, who's someone who I honestly think is a really proficient tank top laner. He can play things like Aatrox really well, same with Jace and whatnot, but it was when he was on something that could be tanky, but also could fight early, that we saw some of his best performances.
Yeah, I definitely think Fake God is going to be a player that's kind of, I don't want to say super slept on, but I'm expecting to see kind of like in the middle of the pack in terms of top players. And going up against Lunacia, who again is somebody that is basically brand new to the semi-professional scene, is going to be looking to find these opportunities to showcase that they can even hang at this level. And so that's going to be one of the places where I'm expecting FlyFam to either give him something with the first or second pick, or save him for last pick so that he can find a comfortable counter matchup.
Can we just say right now that if, say, Lunacia doesn't step up in this game or in the next couple of games,
fine.
Don't criticize him that much. He's new to the scene. He's new to competitive.
Yeah.
Cut him some slack. But if they pop off, make sure you're on Twitter saying they're popping off, because right now Tomio's looking to pop off with a first pick Vi.
Yeah, already coming through. This has been rather strong, but there's the Lucian. Syndra is still on the table. I mean, there's still a lot of very strong picks in the meta, but the Lucian Nami going to get picked up for the FlyFam bottom lane, and that is, I love it.
Yumi's available too.
Yumi's available.
Oh, Zera Yumi. That could actually be a pairing in the bot lane.
Oh, no, you willed it into existence, Alex.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe not the Yumi.
Okay, at least it's
Yumi.
a Lulu.
There you go. It's Lulu. There you go.
We got away from that one, but again...
Almost. Hey, I had 50% on that one.
True. I was still willing Zeri into existence, but I also want to say real quick, if you are being excited about everything that's going on here in the North American Challengers League, make sure you tweet at us. If you throw a hashtag NASale into your tweets, you too can appear on the broadcast, and that makes you broadcast talent just like us. But the Wukong also coming through. Now, Summer Smacks Hyde did say that this was one of the characters they were expecting to be the most played champion in the jungle in all of spring. I'm not convinced it's that good, but it has been a champion that has been kind of a counter pick to the Vi, because you can actually just go for a lot of brawls, especially once you have Divine Sunder.
Well, I think the reason we haven't seen the Wukong today is because it was banned both games previously. So it's kind of hard to say, oh man, why isn't Wukong being played when it's banned twice? So seeing it here for Gu is definitely going to be something that can go toe-to-toe against Tomio on Vi. And I kind of like the Vi here as well, because normally it's a great pickup into Zeri, but it's also fairly good into Lucian. Something that's very mobile as well, and likes to try to be more of a combat ADC that's going in and out of the battle.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing that Tomio has shown proficiency on. I always love Tomio on these champions, even though he's like a mechanically strong player. Champions that like narrow down the number of decisions that you need to make have always been things that Tomio has really excelled on. And I feel as though this Vi perfectly fits the bill. You press Q on somebody, you press R on somebody, and then take turns, punch on them with the left and right fist, and that's a very straightforward game plan.
Oh, that's interesting to see. Akali banned by FlyFam. Blaze, that's something that he actually was really good at playing if you look back last year in a lot of the Proving Grounds. That was kind of the champ that he was starting to make waves with, and where people started noticing him as a mid lane player. So I'm surprised that they were the ones to ban that. I'm not surprised the Casson gets banned, because Casson, I think, is sleeper OP right now. Same with Jax. Like we were talking about that before with how strong he is. So not giving that over to the Lunacia early into this series is a fine change. Now I'm looking to see what they want to get for mid lane. It looks like Talia.
I mean, that is a classic Blaze champion, right? It was something we were seeing quite a bit from them in 2022, but a little bit surprising. It's not nearly considered as strong right this moment, but it makes the Akali and Ahri bans make a little bit more sense. They are characters that can really give Talia a lot of trouble later on, but it also means that with the Talia pickup, you are going to be giving a Menace the counter pick, and as a player that I'm a little bit less familiar with, I was generally seeing them on things like the Akali on the Ahri in the first place, things that had a little bit more aggressive opportunities right off the bat. And with Sylas also off the table, I'm curious what angle they choose to go.
Well, let me see. I'm just going to go over my notes here, because I have it. LeBlanc is something. Oh, yep. I literally had my face hidden. I'm like, LeBlanc. I put it down. I'm like,
I love your green screen coming up, too, at the same time, right? Perfect. And you even get the ring light showing off on it. But the LeBlanc coming through, that's a lot of very focused damage. The Renekton, LeBlanc, Vi all picking one target, and that target is almost definitely going to die. It's going to be a big test of positioning coming out for FLYF. And now the Gragas. This Gragas has been a historical, very strong counter pick into the Renekton. You can kind of go AP or tank, and then Renekton is like, wah, please let me do anything. And so, while it's going to be playing the top lane mostly for a draw in a lot of ways, it does give Lunacia these opportunities to at least maintain an even situation and allow Instinct and Sword to maybe use their aggressive early game to find an advantage in the bottom side.
Well, and that's going to be the big thing, is how does Instinct and Sword go up against Lost Zeyzal when they actually have good opportunities to prove that they are that powerful bot lane duo that I was talking about, that they could go toe-to-toe against legendary ADC Lost from Oceania, as well as world champion player in Zeyzal, twice, in fact.
World champion? Well, LCS champion.
World champion player.
Oh, true. They did go to Worlds a couple of times, but this is definitely a situation where, you know, I said going even for Instinct and Sword would be a big win. This is a lane where we should be expecting them, if they were as good as Lost and Zeyzal, they should be finding an advantage. And we'll see if they can actually make that happen as we start loading onto the Rift.
Yeah, getting ready for our first game between Cloud9 Challengers and the FLYF. Make sure you're in chat letting us know who you want to win this game, who you think is going to take this first game in our best of two. You can see the lovely cinematic showing off the teams getting ready to rumble.
Yeah, and again, I want to give a bit of a shout out to the observers that we do have. We did have Mermage, hashtag Mermage Monarchy, doing some great work, and Zelfers also doing some replay work and secondary observers for us. So shout out to those guys. Make sure you go follow them on Twitter. They have been standouts for the past couple of seasons with us. And now, actually load onto it. No real shenaniganery gonna be coming out for you, Magical.
M&S was in the bot lane, so I was kind of waiting for that one.
Yeah.
Dude, if there might have been a mini shenaniganery, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Do you know where Amenes's name comes from?
Not at all.
So it's actually it's not Amenes, it's MNS. Because his name in Korean is Minsu. MNS.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
There you go.
Interesting. The more you know.
That from the Leaguepedia. I didn't ask him that, but we will
I
hopefully
thought,
get more
you
out of him.
had actually like gone out of your way to talk to M&S and be like, hey.
Not yet. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but my stuff finally came in. I finally have my desk, and I finally have a bed for the first time in 2 weeks. So, things are on the up and up, and then we can start talking to players a little bit more. But getting that first ward, Jimenez will be able to get themselves level 2 off this first wave, and see if FaZe actually respects that, because that could be a big deal in this lane.
At the moment, though, everyone's just going for pretty standard stuff. Might see a bit of a trade in this bot lane. Who gets level 2 will really be how it dictates, as Lost and Zeyzal are not keen to let Instinct and Sword get that level 2 advantage, especially with Lucian Nami.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that Instinct and Sword are not necessarily going for anything just quite yet, right? They are going to be allowing Lost and Zeyzal to contest for level 2 and probably get it first. That's more than anything a testament to Lost and Zeyzal's better understanding of this early game, because if they get level 2 first, it's so hard for Lucian and Nami to do Lucian and Nami things.
It's also, I'd say, argue level 1, dependent on how you play, isn't the easiest for Lucian Nami. You really want to get that level 2. That's when you feel the most powerful. Yeah. So Lost Zeyzal playing that aggressively, pretty much daring the Instinct and Sword to risk it in the bot lane that early. I like that call. I'm with you. I think that's a good call. But Fake God there against Lunacia, welcoming into Academy, saying, all right, even though you got the counter matchup, I'm just going to chunk you out.
Yeah, I mean, Lunacia trying to turn things around on a Fake God, but, it is a Conqueror Renekton going up against the Gragas. And so, we double check where the junglers are. Yet again, another pair starting up on the top side, moving towards the bottom side, and they could be here for potential 3v3.
Could happen, especially with how low Sword and Lost got, but we got to go to the mid lane. M&S, this is LeBlanc. He's only ever lost one game historically on this champ, and he gets first blood in his first showing of Challengers.
Yeah, so far it's definitely looking across the board as though Cloud9 are just going to be the stronger team, and Wow, that is an emphatic way to start things off. And then it's just using the Ignite, blowing up Blaze, and again, even in the bottom lane and the top lane, you know, small advantage already building up in situations where you would normally expect the FlyFam champions to be coming through with advantages. It feels a lot right now like the CLG Civil War we just saw, where the Challengers team should be expected to, but is also just finding advantages before you would really expect that to happen.
It's looking really rough for FlyFam at the moment.
Yeah.
With the bot lane not going the way that you'd expect to at the first few levels, even getting a cheeky recall and reset for Lost and Zeyzal with losing nothing for it, forcing Instinct and Sword to have to do the same. Then in the mid lane play, M&S getting that first blood over Blaze. It's so far just looking like it's domination for Cloud9's challenger. Top lane too. Look at how Lunacia has to fight against Fake God. He's got a level lead, waves crashing in, and he's constantly getting chunked.
Yeah. I mean, Renekton does have to kind of do that over and over again, but the fact that they already forced Lunacia's teleport out is a pretty big win for the Renekton. And now we have a Serrated Dirt coming out for Instinct. And ooh, damage isn't quite there. I don't think they got the first strike off. This is, again, a big opportunity, a big showcase for why Lost and Zeyzal have been some of the strongest players. And I kind of want to take a bit of a trip down memory lane for Zeyzal, because I feel like it's a player that has been a little bit underserved by the North American ecosystem. This was one of the best supports that we had in LCS during his tenure there. You know, again, going to Worlds multiple times, very vocally being one of the leaders of this Cloud9 roster. And then, you know, after they took a little bit of a break, played for an organization called Solafide that didn't pay them. And so after that, they hadn't played for a year because they were being a positional coach. And now this is their opportunity to come back and say, hey, nah, you know, I'm better than that. I deserve my spot. This is a player that I'm expecting to get to LCS relatively quickly.
A bit of a skirmish in the bot lane. Lost is just like, yeah, bye. But the Plaskun's also there, so it doesn't really have to worry about it too much. So there we go. There's a little bit of skirmish. Still control, though, across the board by every lane for C9 Challengers. I don't see a single lane that's not within their grasp to either push back, get leads, or rotate around the map, which is giving Tomio plenty of time to farm up to that level 6.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely a situation where I don't know if we're going to learn a lot about Goo this game, right? It's just a situation where if you don't have prio in any of your lanes, if you don't have a lane that is winning, if you can't make something happen early on, the jungle role is just kind of also there, you know? And unfortunately, Goo is not being set up in a situation where he can actually do anything because all of the lanes that were expected to be kind of winning are currently not.
Yeah, and it is tragic. Look at M&S too. Early roam, looking for bot lane play. After that one solo kill, has gotten so much control over Blaze that you're not going to likely see the roaming style you want to play as Talia, where you want to move around the map and try to impact some of these side lanes alongside Goo. Instead, you're corralled, hoping that you can farm back into this game to keep up with M&S before he snowballs fully out of control.
Yeah. Already creating some space and clearing out the wave, going to be having the first move, and as they see Blaze backing away, I mean Cloud9, priority in the mid lane, priority in the bottom lane, it's going to be a free drag. This was, again, the way that CLG Challengers found their big wins, and now Cloud9 going to be recreating some of that success. And so, our question is going to be, you know, it's way too early to call this over. We haven't even seen a real fight between these teams. I'm still going to be kind of looking mostly at Instinct and Sword to kind of be this big, hairy set of players to really showcase why they've been the ones who have been in the Academy ecosystem longer than most of the other players.
At the moment, it's pretty much in the same lane state, game state for both sides. We are getting another neutral objective spawning soon. Rift Herald coming up. But we are seeing some key items being built up, even if it's not much. You talked about this Serrated Dirt earlier for Instinct, but I'm kind of looking towards that sheen that Goo has, where he can feel a little bit stronger.
Oh,
ooh, and missing the chains there saved Blaze's life.
Maybe not life, but you know, that's still like an extra third of his HP.
Man.
I mean, it's a lot, yeah. Either way, here we go. Goo having their first opportunity to interact on the board, but Tomio's close by.
Yeah, looking for a play around this Rift Herald. Tomio's getting it low. Goo understands what's happening, but doesn't want to go because Zeyzal's
here.
already first on the roam. This is something he was well known for back on Cloud9, back on Evil Geniuses, was being the first one to make these calls to rotate around the map to help out with these neutral objectives.
Oh, goodbye.
Now, Lunacia, there's not much you can do there. Once you see Tomio showing up, you're just unfortunately dead.
Yeah, I mean, there's no mechanical misplay there. It's just... Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe dodging the E was
Did I not say that?
Yeah.
100% was right. You gotta listen to me more, Josh. Big brain over here.
That was a lot more damage coming out of the E than I was expecting, but I mean, Jimenez, another solo kill. You know, that one is definitely an individual gap, but I feel like the Lunacia's death is mostly just not respecting the difference between like solo queue and fives, right? And that's something that a lot of newer players really kind of struggle with, is just like oh yeah, players are talking to each other all the time, but as we see this, I don't know if there's a lot to say. He just landed all of his skill shots and Blaze died.
Yeah, Blaze died, and even with flash up, I don't think it would have mattered.
Yeah.
There's flash for MNS as well. Could have followed that up, so Blaze understands what was about to happen, and now we are seeing the power and why Cloud9 were looking towards MNS and why they wanted to bring him over as a potential player that they can work on rehabilitating, if you want to use that word, and getting to a point where he is going to be the next big mid laner of NA.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Jimenez is a talented player, right? The stat that I loved looking at was that his team was 12-2 when they had him on the field, and they were something like 2-10 when he wasn't, right? He was a huge difference maker for his team. Now, already coming through, beating up on Blaze, is already showcasing the same kind of skill, and so, I mean, we know this guy is going to be a terror in the mid lane. I'd love to see him play up against players like Copy, up against some of the other strong mid laners that we have in the league. And that is going to be a really cool matchup to see if he can also take some of the players that we are saying should be playing in LCS down a notch.
At the moment, I'm waiting to see what kind of plays we'll get from FlyFam when they can actually make a play themselves that isn't purely dictated on reacting to Cloud9 challengers.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. I mean, Goo has looked a little bit at the top lane, but not really able to make anything happen. As I said, I don't think we're going to learn a lot about Goo this game, so we will see whether or not they are able to make any plays happen. But I also want to ask you, Alex, thoughts on this Radiant Virtue coming out from Tomio?
Radiant Virtue's OP. Honestly, I just think it's really strong on a lot of junglers and a lot of champs in general.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I was just wondering if you're going to say it does no damage.
No, unfortunately, it's like, you know, when we roll back the tape and look at Ardent Sensor meta, where it's like, I didn't like it, but it was so broken back then.
Yeah, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, and now, coming into the mid lane?
He's looking for it, but I think he just loses Blaze before he can actually impact it. Right there, MNS gets a solo kill again in a 1v2. He's looking to escape from Goo. The flash in, the charge shut down for Goo.
Okay, that's actually pretty good for Goo, right? Coming in, and even though they have to sacrifice Blaze, he's not worth as much. That's a huge gold win coming out for C9.
They needed something.
Oh, yeah, FlyFam, like, that's actually a really big win. I love the fact that Goo is just willing to throw everything immediately, make sure they actually get something, and, you know, even though they're still down 3,000 gold, we finally get to see Goo actually trying to make these plays, and it's the killer instinct that we always value.
Oh, Lunacia is looking aggressive on Fake God, but you still gotta be careful. He's got a level lead. He's got Gore Drinker already built up. You're only sitting on a Bomby Cinder at the moment. That's not gonna be an exchange that you really can fight as we shift our attention into the mid lane. Goo was able to deny the Rift Herald charge, and even getting a nice seismic shove from Blaze onto Tomio to force him back. So they deny a lot from Cloud9 challengers, but again, this brings up the conversation I was just saying, Josh. When do we see a play from FlyFam that is not completely dictated from what Cloud9 challengers are doing?
That's always going to be the question for every provisional team versus every challengers team, right? When can they actually make things happen? It hasn't started just quite yet, and Cloud9, I am curious, right, because we didn't get to see where Tomio actually placed it down, but it did not get the crash off, so, you know, props to FlyFam for actually making that happen, but this mid lane has gotten, become a problem, shall we say.
Yeah, it really has. This is the point where MNS can just rotate around the map. He's already snowballed out of control. There's no really good lockdown to permanently make sure that there's no way M&S can dive into this backline outside of blowing him up before he blows you up. So, just, like I said, what can you really hope for? We take a look at this replay, and the fact that M&S gets a solo kill on Blaze, still while Goo is right there.
Yeah. I mean, it's just an auto attack that comes out that ends up killing him in the end. And even here, you know, throwing out the root almost allows MNS to leave the fight, right? And almost get out. He was so close to having an opportunity to leave. At the end of it, you still find something, and with another dragon going over to Cloud9, situation is getting worse. And oh, I think Fate God was less than half a second off from getting an extra play there. For now, we start looking at the rest of the map. I do want to praise, yet again, Lost and Zeyzal. They have been one of the very strong lanes that we have been looking at, just in general, right? Lost and Zeyzal, both former LCS players, and Zeyzal has been one of the players that, again, a little bit underserved, hasn't had an opportunity to play as much as they were going for. But now, they're looking to set things up a little bit further. Zeri is a character that we know gets stronger and stronger the longer the game goes. You just have so much mobility built into your kit. And there's not a ton of great ways coming out for FLYF to actually kind of lock them down. You really just have Goo who can knock them up, and hopefully you can burst them out then.
And so that's where, like I said, it's looking rough for FLYF. And unless we see a proactive play from them that doesn't just entirely get dictated by Cloud9 challengers being the ones to start off with something, it's looking really difficult for them to get back into this game. Bot lane didn't have that power that you'd want to see from a Lucian Nami lane. Mid lane has gone completely disastrously, where M&S, he is absolutely fed. Yeah, sure, it's only 3 kills, but it's also only 15 minutes into the game, and one of those kills that he got was with the jungler being there.
Yeah. Thank God, now going for a little bit of a dive onto the Nasi after picking up the turret by themselves. I mean, I said before, this was also a situation where this Renekton was expected to kind of struggle to do anything, but you're up 30 CS, you already got the entire turret, you got a kill as well. This is a pretty big win coming out from Fate God in the matchup, and we kind of go back. The bottom lane was supposed to be something that FLYF was winning, the top lane was going to be something that FLYF was winning, now they go in the mid lane.
Okay, they're looking for the pick. Zeyzal has to use Wild Growth on himself, but look at the damage coming in from Lost onto Goo, having popped that ult already. Looking to chase him down underneath the turret. The flash in, too, from Lost, but he wasn't able to get the kill. Blaze not able to get the seismic jump either. With an exhaust on top of him, nobody will die, but that's going to be a Shelly charge in mid lane, and that should be the turret taken.
Yeah, that's a lot of resources expended by FlyQuest to try and find something on the board, but Lost and Zeyzal, I mean, they blow a lot of summoners, but they keep themselves alive. They actually are the ones who end up coming out ahead in the fight, and now with everybody going for a back from FlyQuest, you get another charge into the second tier turret. I'm trying to think we are once again approaching the point where the challenger team has just kind of beaten the provisional team, and I'm kind of looking if Instinct and Sword can use this combo. You know, the big thing is it's not just the electrocute in the lane, it's also now the first strike, you put the slow on, and then you just have a ton of damage in an upcoming ultimate. If you can start getting that onto people like Jimenez and Lost, maybe there's a chance, but from this point on, it's going to be basically all Cloud9 all the time.
Yeah, at least that's what you're expecting at the moment. It's just that he's... Oh god, not again. Not again. Even with Sword here, I feel like M&S could still kill Blaze right underneath this turret. I'm just waiting for it. I'm holding my breath. I'm going to hold my breath.
Might be holding your breath for a while. He's going for it.
I don't think I have to hold my breath that long.
He's alive.
Where is he? Yeah, no, he's not. There we go. I called it. That's like I didn't think I had to hold my breath for very long. I saw the writing on the wall there. There was nothing you could do. Easy kill for M&S. And now Tomio looking for a fight against Goo inside of FlyFam's jungle. Here comes the tidal wave getting the knockup on to one. The polymorph, like you said, completely denied Goo. So Goo left out to dry and sniped down by Tomio.
Yeah. It really is just a massive skill difference coming out right now from the Cloud9 challengers against the FlyFam, but that's not going to be super surprising coming in, right? Remember, we're looking at the Cloud9 challengers roster, and I think their goal right now, and we're going to give this goal to every LCS organization that is playing in the Challenger series, is you want to promote as many of your players to LCS in the next year as possible, right? We already know they're coming in, they're looking at MNS as somebody that can potentially do it. Zeyzal is somebody that is right up there on my list as somebody that could probably do it right now. Whereas the FLYF, like, they're looking to get these players to a position where they can actually compete with a lot of the Academy, now Challenger players across the board. And for some of them, this is their first opportunity to play at this level. You and Blaze were players that have been in the semi-pro and the amateur scene for quite a while, and they have some hype behind them. But this is kind of showing up against some of the best that the Academy scene has to offer.
I mean, when you have MNS on this team, look at him. He's just saying, I can solo kill anyone I want. It doesn't matter, Goo, if you're right there. Same with Instinct, that's going to be the Cyclone on top of him. But he's probably going to be able to dodge away. Flashing over, there's the distortion, and he's out of there.
I like what I'm seeing from Goo. I like the attempt. Unfortunately, the team just doesn't have enough gold to make any of this happen. There's already a Medjai's and extra needlessly large rod on top of it coming out for this LeBlanc. Like, Menez is showcasing. He's kind of just proving that he's going to be able to have the same kind of play here in North America as he did in Europe. But
Josh, we have
Alex,
a player who's been to Worlds in Zeyzal. We have Lost, who's been a legendary ADC since he's joined in the LCS. Like, even despite some bad season, he's been a top performer in those teams that he's been a part of. Tomio has been this up-and-coming rookie we've talked about. Fake God's been in the LCS as well. But MNS is the one stealing the show completely. Oh? This guy is looking out of his mind, and even though there's a fight happening on the other side of the map, all Cloud9 challengers have to do is just dodge away from the fight. Wait to see what lanes they can push up. They're just playing a very clean, methodical game.
Yeah. And that, I think, was the first play that you're asking for where FLYF might have been doing something first, right? They were the ones who were looking at it. And yeah, Tomio just like hops over and was like, yeah, you know, even if there's people here, I'll probably be fine. It was still FLYF, you know, they teleport Lunacia up to the fight. Fortunately, it just doesn't matter. And so, with that, I kind of want to talk about how we can evaluate some of our FLYF players, right? We were saying that the Renekton versus Gragas matchup is a matchup where Renektons oftentimes struggle to do anything, right? It's a situation where it's a huge nullifying lane, and if Renekton doesn't get ahead early and mid-game, then it kind of doesn't do as much. But Lunacia, as they get run down, I think is outperforming our initial expectations.
Ooh, nice jump onto Lunacia, and Goo here, bounces around, and MNS, his 5th kill of the game. It's seeming pretty standard at the moment.
Yeah, I will probably see a couple more of those before it actually ends. But I think, you know, for players like Vital, who came in last split for Immortals, you know, we gave them a lot of expectations around characters that we knew they were good at, like the Yone, like the Gangplank. I'm still not sure what we're going to be expecting from Lunacia going forward, but, I mean, going up against Fake God, who was another one of these LCS players, and going down, you know, 40 CS and only dying when you are getting Vi-ulted, not a bad start.
No, I mean, I'm just looking at how this game is going to go, and it just seems that it's so clean from Cloud9 Challengers. FLYF, this is a team, you know, who are newer, well, some of the players are newer to the Challenger scene, the semi-pro scene, where they played like, amateur last year with Proving Grounds, but still needed to prove themselves a little bit more. Going up against such a solid roster, it's going to be a very tall task for them to be able to even have these minute wins over Cloud9 Challengers. This is a team that we expect, especially since Tomio brought over from EG Challengers before, he's expected to be a top player, someone that Cloud9 do want to invest into for the future.
Yeah. I think Tomio is definitely the player that is like a big investment, right? Has had some time here in the scouting grounds and everything else, and now been caught a little bit, but I don't think it matters.
I was about to say, is he really caught? Because he's going in and diving into the back line looking for Instinct. He's even getting the flash out of him, chasing him down so that Lost can pick up the kill. George should be the next one. He's galloping away. The bubble connects, but they already got the stun and charge so that they get a killing spree for MNS. And guess what's on the docket? Baron is there. They can easily jump over and take that 23 minutes in.
Oh yeah, Cloud9 continue to dominate this one. I'm not sure how much more there is to say about like where this game is going to be going, right? We were saying like our kind of, you know, comeback mechanism was likely going to be coming out from Instinct and Sword if they can find some of this damage, maybe a little bit of goo, but now they just don't even have the damage to do that, right? They try and dump everything into Tomio, and he's he's fine. And in the bottom half of this fight, watch Zeyzal just like 1v1ing Goo, right? This isn't really Goo's fault, but unfortunately, he's the one who kind of has to pay for it, right? There's not a whole lot left for the Monkey to do. Everyone else is too strong, and Menez has absolutely blown up the game. And so I want to actually ask the question to you, Alex, right? We do know, on the other stream, we did watch Cincinnati Fear take a game off
you're
of
gonna
Team
spoil
Liquid
it. Okay.
I mean, it's already happened.
We were gonna spoil that. I know, but I didn't know if we were gonna spoil that for the viewers here.
Yeah, well, you know, it's in the past. Yeah, if you're not watching both streams at the same time, I don't know what you're doing. But after this Dragon, I'm gonna have to ask you, what provisional teams are you particularly excited about? But for now, I think this is FlyFam's last hurrah.
Well, I mean, they got one more game after this. So
True.
I hope it's not their last
game.
hurrah. Yeah, for this game, yes. They are trying to contest the soul for Cloud9 Challengers, and look at the flank from MNS. He is ready for this side. Blaze is like, I can deal with them. I'm fine. I'm okay. The jump over the wall, but the blast cone making sure that they can get the kill on top of him. Cyclone comes in from Goo, but they've already got a double kill for MNS. They could have made it a triple, but lost one of his own.
Yeah, not with a shout, but with a whimper. Cloud9 take them down. FlyFam going to be holed up in their base. The Mountain Soul is available whenever Cloud9 want to go for it. They are charging down the mid lane, or the bottom lane. They still have the Baron. They're actually going for both lanes at the same time. I don't think the game ends here unless Cloud9 just want to fight under both Nexus turrets.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think it ends, but let's take a look at... I mean, we know effectively it's over.
Yeah.
It's more of what can FlyFam do at this point to at least have some hope for the next game, what strategies they want to change, because when we look at this team fight, it's mostly just MNS is split up 3 people, and the rest of the team is dealing with 2.
Yeah. So I'm gonna pose the same question I asked earlier to you, Alex. What provisional team are you most excited about?
I mean, hearing Cincinnati Fear took a game off of Team Liquid Challengers definitely puts them in that conversation, but going into it, I would probably have said AoE. AoE was the team that I think I'm the most excited about.
Yeah. Which, I guess the other thing is, like, which 2 teams are you expecting to really have an opportunity to put themselves into the top 2? Because remember, of the 6 teams, 4 of them will have to play in relegations later.
Obviously, I would still have my vote on to AoE, but I don't know if I'd have the same 2. I might argue, dependent on how well TL first does and they like group together as a squad, they could actually take that spot. But let's put that on pause because we're probably going to have the last fight here. They're split up. Sword and Blaze are already caught out. We know it's about to happen, and you can't even take the Blaze! No! The wall betrayed you!
Oh, that was funny.
That's tragic. The other things that happen after this is just we already knew what was going to happen.
Cloud9 are good.
They've gotten Cloud9 are fine. I'm just looking at MNS. He's looking for double digits. It's the first game, his first showing in Challengers League, and he's looking for double digit kills. He's already got 22 stacks in that Magi's. That was built a long time ago. And Instinct, you showed up and bye, you died.
Oh, one more
you just shouldn't have gotten you shouldn't have gotten anywhere close to that. You had to know you were going to die with a Fed LeBlanc on the other side. So with this clean game from Cloud9 Challengers, they take down FlyFam and give them the brutal reality that is NA Challengers League.
Yeah. Jimenez, we knew he was going to be good, absolutely dominating this first game, his first showing in North America, showcasing why they brought him over here, and at the same time, every single one of their lanes winning matchups that they're not supposed to. You can't ask for a whole lot more coming out from this kind of team than just showcasing that they are going to be one of the stronger rosters in the league.
We saw that from CLG against their sister team as well beforehand. We're seeing this in Cloud9 Challengers, but it's also expected. The fixed team going up against a professional team. We talked about the 2 different dynamics that you want to have when making these teams, and I think that we're seeing that so far in these 2 series, where it's one team is built because they want to use these players maybe in the next year or 2, and then the other one is more down the line, 3 to 4 years. Yeah.
Well, I want to take a moment then to kind of bring in our new and old host that has been with us all day long, Lennon Mazel White. Welcome back. What were your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I think you guys touched on it very well. I think we're seeing a clear difference between the teams, and especially being able to see kind of the way that it's being represented onto the Rift in a way. Joshi, can you hear me at least?
I can hear you.
Okay, well, I think Magical's have some issues. All right.
I've been having audio issues throughout that whole game, so.
Feels good,
all right,
man.
We're
feels
good. We're good.
So as a whole, I think very, very strong showing from Cloud9. I think they show kind of the level that they can represent, and it's really, really awesome to see everything clicking to some extent. I would say it's the first game of the season, but big standouts were standing out that we set up ahead of time, and now it's really about, honestly, going back to that original conversation of like comfort for FlyFam. Do they find a way to play through this game? Because mid lane was definitely an issue, and I think Blaze will learn a lot from facing Jimenez, but I think that there's gonna be some game plan adjustments needed in that mid lane, Yoshi.
Yeah, I definitely think one thing we have to know is that several teams and several managers have said something to the effect of, we don't import players unless we think that they will basically overnight or by the end of a split likely be a top 5 LCS prospect in whatever their role is. And, you know, it's a little early to say Jimenez is definitely that, but he's already giving us hints that that is likely the direction he's going to be heading. And while Blaze is a solid player in the semi-pro and the amateur scene, this is one of the best teams that they're likely going to be having to play across the entire season. I don't think we can learn too much about FlyFam just quite yet off of that first game, but I also don't know what more they can really do other than have such an obvious game plan of like, hey, we have Jarvan, we're going to gank mid lane at level 2, at level 3, at level 5, at level 6, and hopefully allowing them to actually find an advantage somewhere in the map, because that just didn't happen.
I definitely agree, and it's like, honestly, I would rather just see them try and attempt a very tried and true plan, right, and see if they can execute it, than try a bunch of different things. And I think that's something that maybe they will take away from game number 1, especially because everything around mid lane, I definitely think jungle, you could say some of the pathing was a little bit interesting earlier on, especially after the first waves were cleared. But for the big part, bot lane looked okay, top lane looked all right, and I think if you can find some stability throughout the rest of the map, Magical, you can really actually maybe even have a bit of a scrappier game against Cloud9 challengers.
Well, and that's the whole thing we want to see out of these provisional teams. We know it's going to be very difficult for them to beat a challengers team. Cincinnati Fear doing that is definitely a big step for that roster, and I'm happy for them. But you'd more expect, looking at the difference between fixed and provisional teams, to be, how does a provisional team at least show some remarkable skills in those games, even if they lose? Like, that's what we talked about with CLG Faith. Just the last game, was they showed skills, especially with looking for those aggressive plays early. They just got to shore up some of those mistakes.
Indeed, indeed. But we got to send it to a little break while we get ready for our halftime bit. So we'll be right back.